And then you take Cocomelon away, and their little brains are like, hey, what happened?
Exactly, yeah.
Welcome to Holo AI Podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, Pavuya Rainey.
And I'm your co-host, Kayla Kowalskia.
Alright, so today we're diving into something I know a lot of parents have thoughts about. Cocomelon.
Mm-hmm.
It's catchy, it's colorful, it's everywhere. And let's be real, those little ones get sucked in.
Yeah. You say I am.
But we're going deeper than just Cocomelon good or bad today.
Ah.
We're going to unpack this video essay you shared. It gets into some pretty heavy criticisms, and we're going way beyond the clickbait.
Yeah, it's a really interesting deep dive.
Right, like, don't get me wrong, sometimes that watermelon song, lifesaver, when you're just trying to get through dinner.
Yeah.
But then it makes you wonder, right? What's the catch? What's going on behind those big eyes and catchy tunes?
It's definitely sparked a huge debate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it harmless fun or something more calculated?
This video essay brings up those questions for sure. How's it designed? What's the impact potentially on these little kids? Exactly. And one of the big ones they hit on right off the bat is the whole addictive by design angle. They talk about the colors being like hyper saturated, the super fast cuts, the repetition.
Yeah, repetition.
Right, it gets stuck in your head for days. They even compared it to slot machines and TikTok. I mean, is that going too far?
It's interesting because young brains really do thrive on repetition. That's part of how they learn, right? Whether it's language, how to move, even social cues, they pick it up through repetition. So in a way, Cocomelon's tapping into something very fundamental about how kids learn.
Which is like genius,
Yeah.
but also kind of scary.
Yeah.
They've got this formula down to a science, and the video essay talked about this distractor room where they actually test Cocomelon content.
Yes. They're watching how kids react with real world distractions to see what holds their attention. It's like, whoa.
It does make you wonder how much of this is intentional manipulation and how much is just, working with those natural developmental stages. And then there's the question of, okay, they're engaged, but how much are they actually learning?
That's a big one. Totally. And that's actually something I really want to dig into because the video essay argues that Cocomelon might be leaning way more into entertainment and actual education. So we're talking about how well Cocomelon holds a kid's attention, but is it actually teaching them anything?
Right, yeah.
Because this video essay, they make the case that it might not be as educational as, it looks on the surface. Like they use that no song.
Okay. The baby's like, no, to everything. Brushing their teeth, bath time, bedtime. And I'm thinking, isn't that like the opposite of what most parents are trying to?
Exactly. It's like you're trying to get them ready for bed and they're getting this soundtrack of no.
Right. Could it like mess up the parenting a little, you think?
It's interesting because there's this whole theory called social learning theory. Basically, it says kids are always watching and they learn from what they see, even fictional characters.
Oh, totally.
So even if it's a silly song, if they see a character getting rewarded for saying no, it makes you wonder, could it actually influence how they behave in those situations?
Yeah, it's like maybe they're not picking up their ABCs, but they're learning how to put up a fight when it's toothbrushing time.
Exactly.
And this video essay, they even talked to a speech language pathologist. And they were saying that shows like this, like Cocomelon, could actually be part of what's causing some of the speech delay.
That's something that's being talked about more and more, that whole connection between screen time and how kids' language develops. It's complicated.
Right.
There is some research out there, studies showing a link between like a lot of screen time and kids having trouble with language. But it's hard to say, is it cause and effect? Is there something else going on?
Well, this speech language pathologist, they were saying that because the storylines are so simple in Cocomelon, right? Not a lot of dialogue, things are kind of like spelled out visually. They were saying it doesn't really push kids to think critically or use their language skills as much as like a show with a more complicated storyline might.
Right. And it makes sense if you think about it, like giving your brain different workouts.
Right.
So some shows that are really fast paced, some that are slower, some with lots of dialogue, some that are more visual. Exposing kids to that variety is probably going to be good for their brain development overall, language included.
It's like with anything, like too much of the same thing can't be good. To crack it, you gotta mix it up.
Absolutely. And that mix needs to include a lot of those other things we know are important for kids.
Yeah.
Playing outside, interacting with other kids, actually having conversation.
Right.
Reading, those are things that even with catchy tunes, Cocomelon just can't replace.
It's true. But the video essay, it doesn't stop at just like the language development stuff. They go into some more intense territory too, like the possibility of addiction, withdrawal symptoms, which is a little bit, I don't know. What do you think? Is it going too far to compare it to like drug addiction?
Comparing it to drug addiction is a strong statement.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is some actual science behind why these kids have such intense reactions, like those meltdowns when Cocomelon gets turned off.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We've all seen the video.
Yeah, right. And it's because these shows with the bright colors, fast pace, it's that constant stimulation, it triggers dopamine, that feel-good chemical in our brain.
Since like they get used to that dopamine rush, and then you take Cocomelon away, and their little brains are like, hey, what happened?
Exactly, yeah. And it's not just about the immediate reaction, right? The video essay goes even further, talking about like long-term effects. Could this be messing with their attention spans down the road? Could it even be connected to things like ADHD?
They brought up ADHD, they talked about speech delays, and there was even that study mentioned, I think it was looking at 5-year-olds, and how screen time at that age was connected to attention problems later on. So like, how worried should parents actually be? Should we all be ditching the tablets right now?
I mean, it's definitely something to be mindful of, right? We can't just ignore this research. More studies are needed, for sure, to say definitively what the long-term effects might be. But I think the biggest takeaway here is balance.
Right.
Like, every kid's different. Some kids might just be more sensitive to this kind of stimulation. So pay attention to your kid, how they react. That's key.
So it's not about like never letting them watch Cocomelon. It's about making informed choices, knowing what you're getting into.
Exactly. Yeah. Easier said than done, though.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're exhausted. I just need 20 minutes to,
Oh, tell me about it. It's like sometimes Cocomelon feels like the only option. But I think this video essay, they actually called it like a sad symbol. Because it's like we're relying on screens to parent for us. Like, instead of just letting them play.
And that's the thing, right? When screen time replaces other things, that's where it gets dicey. Because playing, building stuff, reading together, that's where kids really learn and grow. Those are experiences that Cocomelon just can't replicate.
I mean, I know I've been there, but you're right. It's about having other options like ready to go so you're not just defaulting to the screen. Although, to be fair, I did think it was interesting how the video essay did include some parents who had positive things to say. Like, they felt like their kids were learning colors, numbers, even some words from Cocomelon. So it's not all bad, right?
Definitely not. I think that's the other important thing. Every kid is different. Every family is different. What works for one might not work for another. It's about finding what works for you.
So for those parents who are looking for those other options, what are some good alternatives?
Well, the video essay actually mentioned a few. They highlighted Mrs. Rachel, a little slower paced, really focused on language, lots of interaction.
Oh yeah, Miss Result is great. Definitely a different vibe.
It all comes down to being an informed consumer. Do a little research, maybe try a few different things. Choose the shows that match what you want your kid to be getting out of screen time.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. We did it. We explored the colorful, musical, slightly addictive world of Cocomelon. We talked brains, we talked language development, we talked about those parenting struggles that we all know too well.
It's a lot to consider. But at the end of the day, it's all about figuring out what works best for your family and maybe, hiding the tablet every once in a while.
Maybe just a little bit. Until next time, keep those little minds engaged on and off the screen. Thanks for watching.
And see you later.